Disney boss Bob Iger steps down in his role as chief executive. And that is the headline on this Thursday's MBE Movie News.
Yes, John, that is the headline on Thursday's show. Bob Iger, CEO of Disney since 2005, will be stepping down. Over the next 12 months, it's not going to be an immediate departure for Big Bob. He's going to obviously be replaced by another Bob Chapek, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who has been with Disney since 1993.
It's almost like that quote, Stephen, from The Irishman. What was the Italian name that obviously Jimmy Hoffa says? There's hundreds of, he's all called that in Italy. I don't know, doesn't matter.
I know what you're.
There's a lot of Bobs in Disney.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, this is monumental for Disney, Stephen. It's monumental for Bob Iger.
Yeah.
I do believe that he's been looking to retire for a number of years, but the company have been pushing it back. He is getting older, so it's not a huge surprise to me.
No.
Although the timing is a little bit surprising. It's so abrupt. But he's stating in this article that it's primarily because of the takeover of Fox and just how that's expanded out the operations even more. It's becoming bloated, and it's difficult to kind of obviously manage all of these different studios and whatnot, Searchlight Pictures and things like that. I don't believe he's fully stepping down completely. He is going to be directing creative endeavours after he steps away from the obviously chief executive role, so he'll still have a part to play in the company. And I'm kind of glad about that, because he is such a, how would I put it, pioneering figure for Disney. What he's managed to accomplish over the last 15 years. More importantly, he increased the market value of Disney fivefold during his tenure. So what more glowing
this is the thing, John.
Obituary can you write for the man?
Let's go back to 2005. We'll obviously talk about Bob Chapek as well. We don't know too much about this chap, but you go back to pre-2005 with Disney and what they were sort of churning out at this point. This was obviously before the Marvel stuff, Star Wars and all that. Fox takeover, Disney Plus, all these good things that he's brought to the company. Him and obviously his board. But Disney at that stage, as I recall, would occasionally have a really good film coming out. 1992's Aladdin, I think it was 92, 93, can't remember. It'd be another few years, The Lion King.
94.
It seemed to be like there was maybe one or two would come out every 3 or 4 years that were good films. You look at this position of this company now, where they're releasing maybe 3 Marvel films a year, Star Wars film, the television series that that are hitting the streaming service as well, the Fox takeover. This guy has revolutionised this company. Him and obviously who works under him, but it's led by this guy. Everything goes through him. I just think sometimes companies as large as Disney, probably the largest in the world for what they do, sometimes change isn't a bad thing. I think Bob Iger's, he'll have his own ambitions, personal stuff that he'll want to achieve before he finally retires. So in that sense, I'll be sad to see him go, because I think he's brought more positive to the company than negative. There has been a rocky road over the last few years with certain things, but directly not his fault. Bob Chapek, he's been with the company for 27 years. I think he actually previously ran the company's parts and productions division. It's going to be very interesting to see what he brings to the game. As I said, don't know too much about him, but obviously this is something that's probably been spoke about for quite a while now. There's going to be a handover period as well. I think that's why they're saying it'll be the end of the year before Iger goes. So I think he's probably going to shadow him for a while. I'm not going to say in a patronising way, learn the ropes. He's obviously a highly qualified gentleman. But it's an end of an era, and it's going to be a very interesting time for Disney as well. Obviously with the future of 2 of the biggest franchises, Star Wars, which we don't know where that's going to go. At the moment, it's television series that seems to be keeping people interested, and positive vibes. Certainly their films have been a bit dicey. And Marvel, it's going into phase 4 now. We don't know what we're going to... Well, we do know what we're going to... because they put the slate out, but what I mean is we don't know how it's going to be received. So it's going to be a big change. It's going to be a big change for Disney, a big change for Marvel, and a big change for Star Wars. So all these things are connected. But I think he's doing the right thing. You know, I think if he's got some ambition still in his life, he wants to achieve in his career, his professional career, then, you know, can only wish him well. Absolutely,
Stephen. I completely echo everything that you've said there. He's achieved so much, but look, the man deserves to go out in his own way, maybe into a less stressful job where he's doing things that are more hands-on with the creative side of the business at Disney. Because look, he has had his hand in some of the early things with Star Wars and whatnot. He put a kibosh on the standalone movies and whatnot. He didn't like the way that they were being handled, and who could argue with that? Because they were just regurgitating the same crap again and again, going to the same old characters. There was no gambles being taken. It was just safe option. He's ended that. We went into TV, and I've got to imagine he would have had some say in Jon Favreau and whatnot, taking a more hands-on approach with obviously the Mandalorian and Kevin Feige coming in. Well, he worked in conjunction with obviously Kathleen Kennedy, but I don't know much about the Bob Chapek character either. I can't lie. He's been in the company for many, many years. He's obviously a steady pair of hands. He's earned the trust of Disney, so what more do you want, really? One of the biggest companies in the world. It's a shame to see Bob is leaving, though. Iger, that is, not Bob Chapek. But it's going to be very interesting to see where he goes next in terms of this creative side, where he's going to land in terms of what's he having the sort of puppet master role over. Because we do know that Kevin Feige runs Marvel as a whole now. He runs everything in terms of the comic book movie side of things. Kathleen Kennedy's contract's about to go, so I don't know how that's going to play out. I personally think Jon Favreau will take over from that, because he's just so...
He's a shoo-in,
and he's instrumental in the Disney machine. He's a great cog. He's doing things with technology. But I'm getting off on a tangent. I digress. You can't really speak highly enough about the man's legacy. Pixar, Marvel, I mean, they completely transformed Pixar for me. It's just amazing the movies they churn out year in, year out. Marvel was saved. It was a joke. It was nearly dying. Lucasfilm, we didn't save Lucasfilm, but he took it out of the doldrums. It was going nowhere, really. Let's be honest. And then finally, obviously, Fox. He's overseen one of the biggest acquisitions in the history of film. So, what a legacy that is for the man. And look, wish him all the best. I really do. He's not going to be watching this show, so it doesn't really matter much in the grand scheme of things. But whatever. We'll move on swiftly. It's not going to hurt Disney, is it? Let's be honest.
I think exactly, John. It won't. But just staying on, obviously, the topic of Lucasfilm. Our next topic is all about Steven Spielberg won't direct Indiana Jones 5. James Mangold is in talks to replace John. This is obviously in quite a few platforms. Certainly the one I've got on me just now is from Variety, and this is to do with Indiana Jones 5. There was obviously talk about Steven Spielberg. I know you spoke about it.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I'll flash it up, what I said yesterday, and then we'll come back and discuss it. So, I agree. I would like to see a successful final conclusion to the Indiana Jones character and franchise. And the fact you have Steven Spielberg coming on board to direct it kind of makes that more likely anyway. They just seem to make it work. There's a confidence in the brand, just like there's a confidence in Steven Spielberg as a director, and I think that will play a big part. It's an absolute joke.
Well, here we are.
I said just last night, Stephen, that I was excited for this movie because Steven Spielberg was directing it, and so his air of confidence and authority, that would lend itself to this movie, this story, and that we were almost guaranteed a good finale, a conclusion to the Indiana Jones Harrison Ford era of the story. I know there's talk of passing over the baton, and I know later than a day later he's left the production,
John,
and he's doing a sort of executive producing role, which basically means he's buggering off. He doesn't care. This
actually broke when you were recording, you know, so it's Sod's Law, isn't it? But listen, what's your thoughts on obviously James Mangold coming in? We know him from obviously the Wolverine Logan franchise, but more obviously from the Ford v Ferrari film as well. Could you think of anyone better to take the reins of this film?
No.
Certainly for the action element of it. You know?
Absolutely not, Stephen. What I love about James is the fact that he's not only accomplished in directing action movies and whatnot. We've seen that with Logan to an extent. Ford v Ferrari as well. Obviously, as it says in the article, Wolverine too.
Yeah.
He knows how to do that genre and he knows how to do it well. But what I like most about it is the emotion he gets out of the characters. And just the actors as well, the great performances. He got it out of the likes of Patrick Stewart, obviously Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
In Ford v Ferrari, he really did get some magnificent performances out of Matt Damon and Christian Bale. And it's the quieter moments he allows these characters. He allows them to breathe in the midst of freneticism and quick-paced movies.
It's a good point you've made, because
Yeah.
I think this was the thing that was missing from Indiana Jones 4. The characters were like cardboard cutouts. They were caricatures of themselves, you know. And sometimes franchises that have gone on too long or became a bit of a legend in their own right can't live up to continuing the perception of those characters, and they become a sort of characterization of themselves, if you like. So you're right. I think this man knows how to develop characters. He knows how to get into the heart and soul of these characters and what they stand for. So that's one of I never actually thought of that till you raised it there. This is one of his sort of his trademarks, and you're right, when you saw that in Logan, you know, this was a side of Logan, this was a side of Charles Xavier we never saw before. You know, it was all two-dimensional. And I don't mean that in a disservice way to the X-Men franchise, but this was more on a sort of personal level. We were getting to see these characters, their emotions, how they felt about each other, something that hadn't been explored before, and that's all down to Mangold.
Yeah, Stephen, you've seen it in Ford v Ferrari as well, this great relationship between these two friends. They'd parted ways, they come back, they work together to try and propel Ford into the pinnacle of Le Mans and motor racing, transforming the company's image as a result. And just the way that he blended the action sequences, the high octane racing with great performances, real quiet moments with these two guys and their relationship. It was heartfelt, really poignant in parts, and just you connected with the characters. This is exactly what Indiana Jones needs. It needs a director of this ilk who understands the core material, understands how to develop out real living, breathing 3D characters, and who'll do the acting talent of a Harrison Ford absolute justice.
It's funny, John, because when this news obviously started to come about and Spielberg was connected with it, you know, maybe 20 years ago I would have been very excited to see another Indiana Jones film with Steven Spielberg directing. That would have been a match made in heaven. I just didn't feel that excited. It's got nothing to do with Steven Spielberg. I know he's busy obviously with his West Side Story stuff. I think he's going to be like a producer on this project anyway, so he's going to have his hand in it in some way, very much like James Cameron did with Terminator Dark Fate. But we'll see how much of his hand is in there. But I'm more excited about the film now because of Mangold's potential involvement. It's obviously not been confirmed, but it looks like there are deep in talks to get his man on board.
Stephen, I hope it happens. I really do. I'm not that in favour of seeing another Indiana Jones movie. I feel like the franchise is dead. But as I did say last night, you need to try and offer.
You could say that about the X-Men franchise,
you could,
John.
You absolutely could, yeah. But you know what I mean? You have to give a fitting conclusion to the character. That was a disaster of a movie.
Yeah.
That's not doing justice to Harrison Ford and his legacy with Indiana Jones. You have to go out in a better way than that. The fans deserve better. The character deserves better. Harrison, so passionate about going back and doing what he did with Han Solo. He deserves better as well.
It's funny how his outlook on those two characters are so different though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it's to do with the characters. I think it's more to do with the franchise and the limitations that character had in Star Wars.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, because Han Solo was useless at the end. He could have been killed off in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
He was superfluous in Return of the Jedi. He didn't further the story at all. He was really just a nuisance. He got in the way. I mean, he had his moment with the shield bunker on Endor.
You've got to credit, Harrison Ford for that as well. That could have been a right cash cow for him. He could have done voice work and animated stuff for the rest of his days, and Star Wars related stuff, and turned up at every convention. But he saw the potential in the character up to The Empire Strikes Back, and then, as you said, there was no further road to go with the character, and you've got to commend him for that, and I just think he's got a bit more free reign with Indiana Jones and where he can take that character. There's all these possibilities.
Because he's the main man.
I always felt, there should have been more of these films. Some people think that 3 was enough, after The Last Crusade in 1990.
Me.
But I just felt that throughout the 90s in particular, I think he could have maybe done another trilogy of these films. Certainly was able-bodied. He certainly still is. He's a fit guy for his age. But I just felt that was the period in time. I feel the same in Star Wars as well. I think the 1990s was the best time to do the sequel trilogy, where all these actors are sort of at their prime. But I'm kind of looking forward to it a little bit more. I say that I'm excited. Maybe that's a bit of an overstatement. I'll certainly watch the film, John. Whereas I think if it was just going to be another churned out Steven Spielberg directed film, his connections with Lucasfilm anyway, it probably wouldn't have interested me as much. But I'm interested to see where he takes the characters and how he's going to develop the characters. Absolutely,
Stephen. The final thing I would say, you're right about Spielberg to an extent, I think, because how much passion will the guy have left for this project? He's done so many different things over the years, so many amazing movies, self-contained stories. He did his thing with Indiana Jones, much like James Cameron. I was about to say Jim.
He's also
Cameron
got a comic book war thing coming out as well, we spoke about it maybe about 2 years ago, John.
I spoke about it on Heroes the other day, the upcoming DC things. I can't even recall the name of it now. It's completely left my head.
So he's got his fingers in many pies at the moment, John. But listen, we're going to move on to the final part of the show. It's obviously the blog rundown. We are doing 5. I wasn't sure last week, hadn't done it for a while. But the first movie review that we're going to chat about, John, briefly. Obviously, you've streamlined this section of the show for, good reason. It's The Farewell from 2019. This was reviewed by Gianni Di Maia.
Yes.
And this film was directed by Lulu Wang, also written by her, and stars the likes of Shuzhen Zhao, and I don't know how to say that next name, John. Aquafina and ex-Mayo. So I've not seen this film, John. I don't know if you have, but
sadly not.
Another great review from Gianni.
It was, Stephen. Look, I haven't seen the movie. I am aware of Lulu Wang, though. She is tremendous. I watched the directors roundtable and lead up to the Golden Globes. Really passionate young director, has a clear vision for where she wants her career to go. She could have sold her soul for lack of a better phrase, that's perhaps not fair on streaming services, but she could have sold her soul to a streaming service. She refused it. She wanted to develop her brand and her image. She chose to go with A24 and make this movie. By all accounts, an incredible movie. Some amazing performances. She really shone in her directing in this movie. This is not even based on the review. This is just what I heard about it. And certainly Gianni gave it a 9 out of 5. And again, he's just a wonderful writer, so you'd highly urge anyone to come and give this man's reviews a read. I think there's a lot of Gianni reviews this week.
He's a busy boy just after January, John. But listen, we'll move on to the next film review, and it's from Gianni. As you said, it's Marriage Story from 2019 as well. This is obviously on the streaming channel, Netflix. Both of us seen this film, John. This was directed by Noah Baumbach. I think that's how you pronounce the name.
I think it is as well, yeah.
I also wrote this, and this stars Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson and Julia Greer.
Stephen, look, I really did enjoy the movie. I thought it was magnificent.
Actually missed out one of the most important people in this film who won an Oscar.
Laura Dern.
Yeah, and Ray Liotta as well.
Ray Liotta was fantastic in his little cameo. Really good movie. Some amazing acting performances. Just that moment when Adam Driver breaks down and he's clutching her. I think he says he wakes up every morning wishing she'd be dead.
Yeah, it hit home, didn't it?
And it was just him crying. It felt so natural. It was a really powerful movie about the breakup of marriage and whatnot, and the implications on the family unit. Gianni really enjoyed it as well. He gave it a 9 out of 10. It's really conversation heavy, but just so well directed, and a wonderful score from something Newman. It's not Thomas Newman, but there was another Newman, and I really enjoyed the goddamn score. Sadly not Paul.
No. Listen, we'll move on, John, but that was another great review as well, and a great film. If anyone's not seen it, it's on Netflix just now. The last film that was on Netflix at the end of last year, it was The Irishman. And again, Gianni has reviewed this film, busy boy Gianni, and this was directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci. Predictable, what I'm saying here, but this was another amazing film, John. Obviously missed out at the Academy Awards, but you can understand why. Really competitive year. I've got to say though, there's a few scenes I've actually watched it since my initial viewing of it back in November, when it was, I think it was the 1st of November actually, it came on the streaming channel. There's a few scenes in there that actually I went back and saw and I kind of cringed at, and I really shouldn't do that, because I think for the technology in this film, you have to appreciate Robert De Niro and Al Pacino now are at a good age. Joe Pesci as well. I think what they did with Joe Pesci was fantastic. Obviously some of the body movements was a little bit dicey. I forgave Samuel Jackson and Captain Marvel, his way of running. Yeah. So there's just some things the body can't do, but I think overall, John, I thought this was an absolute fantastic film, a great story as well, and they're based on true events. For me, Al Pacino was probably the standout. Yeah,
Stephen, look, it was a real poignant story about life and making decisions. Some you regret, some you don't, and just where that leads to at the end, when you come to the end and you're on your own because of some of the decisions you've made. Really affected by that end sequence with obviously Sheeran, what was his first name? Frank Sheeran?
Frank Sheeran, yeah.
Yeah, at the end, obviously Bob De Niro. Look, he sums up the movie perfectly, Gianni. The end thing where he's breaking down, Pacino hogging the spotlight with a campy performance. Just the difference between him and Pesci, who was more restrained. I really enjoyed Joe Pesci in this.
Yeah,
just my favourite line in the whole movie is "It is what it is." That whole sequence, just it's tense. It's amazing.
I did like the gun knife thing that Pacino came away from the courtroom as well.
Pacino was magnificent. He's in his element when he's doing these boisterous performances. But he's right as well. Yeah. Don Pacino, what's my name? Yeah, and he says De Niro delivers the most emotionally vulnerable performance he's probably done in his career, and I agree. I really enjoyed it. Magnificent.
You're right, John. I think at that point when they went back to the house, when Sheeran had to obviously do him in, he was at his most vulnerable there.
Yeah. You felt the conflict in the man throughout the whole day.
Obviously the trust factor as well had to come into it, John. But another great review from Gianni.
Yes.
Here's another one coming in from Gianni. I think this is the 4th film. It's Anima.
I remember this.
Yeah, this is the Tom York one. Paul Thomas Anderson. You were talking about this. I don't know if we were doing it in a show or if we were just talking in general, but this is one. You're obviously a big Tom York fan, Paul Thomas Anderson fan as well, John. It's a very short and sweet review from Gianni, but the film itself is very short and sweet as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what the running time for it is.
I think it's like an avant-garde style.
15 minutes long. If I'm reading this right from Gianni's review. It wasn't Netflix. I don't know if we get this over here.
I don't know if we did.
It was the US Netflix, but this was something I remember you speaking about this, and as you said, it's got a very artsy sort of feel to it. An approach to it, but Tom York obviously collaborating on this film would have been for the sort of soundscape of the film as well. That's what he's best known for with his his work with Radiohead. So what's your thoughts on this one, John?
Stephen, I'd love to watch it. I recall seeing a trailer for it and it seemed very surreal, avant-garde style filmmaking, and you're right with the soundscapes. He was doing the scoring on it, I do believe, working on the soundtrack, and it looks surreal. Paul Thomas Anderson's one of the truly great directors. He's just magnificent. The work that man's done in his career, I'd love to see it. I've not seen it, but Gianni certainly seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah, just based on Gianni's review, I'm very interested to see this. But we'll move on to our final review this week. It's that man again, Gianni. Well done, Gianni. That's 5 in a row. This is Avengers Endgame, directed by the Russo brothers, starring the who's who of Hollywood. I don't even, Robert Downey Jr.
Who's not in this movie?
Yeah, who's not? It'd probably be easier saying that, John.
Yeah.
But this we went to see this film. I think it was when it came out last April. I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it's nearly been a year since this film came out. Absolutely epic. Just over 3 hours long. Remember, we were all concerned about toilet breaks and all that. You'd not worry.
No.
We didn't have to go to the toilet. We were so engrossed in this film. Slow burning first hour, and then it just picks up the pace after that. I think a lot of people actually complained about that first hour, saying it was a bit slow.
No.
I understood it was the come down from Infinity War. It was obviously the sort of backlash from that, and you had to have that moment. And I think it was the best time to do it as well at the start of the film. So the last two hours of that film was absolutely epic.
You're absolutely right, Stephen, and Gianni's right as well when he says that this movie teaches what it means to be a hero. Feverish persistence. He's absolutely right, no matter the cost. We've got time heist in here, just wonderful cinematography, visual effects, 2 really standout performances from me, from Robert Downey Jr. and maybe Chris Evans as well, just what he does and his journey and the end of obviously Captain America and Tony Stark. It's a duology. They were the 2 sort of pioneering figures of the Avengers throughout that Infinity Saga. I really enjoyed the movie. Really enjoyed everything about it, really. I loved the first hour, the journey that went on, the quietness, the contemplation, then just the balls-to-wall action. One of the best final half hours to a action movie I've ever seen. Not a movie, not generalise it, but an actual action movie. And don't forget
the Alan Silvestri soundtrack as well, John.
Yeah.
Epic.
I mean, that Portals, just incredible.
Amazing.
On your left. Love it. Absolutely love the movie. One of my all-time favourite MCU movies. Still not my favourite though. I'd still put The Winter Soldier and maybe Civil War right up there, because Captain America is probably my favourite Avenger. So
First Avenger.
Yeah, the first Avenger. That was good as well. It was good. But Winter Soldier is probably my favourite of all time. I just love that movie. But look, I ain't got much more to add to Stephen. No. I don't know if you've got anything more to add to it. Well, you want me to round up the show then on that note?
I think you better, John.
Yeah.
Had a bit of a breakdown last week.
Yes. Well, what did you make about the Bob Iger story? What's your thoughts on him leaving Disney? Well, leaving the chief executive role at Disney at the end of the year. What is your thoughts on the news that James Mangold is potentially stepping in to direct Indiana Jones 5? Is that a great decision, the correct decision? If you have anything at all to say about any of those news articles or about the blog rundown, you can comment below and let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And if you do, then you'll see us again at some point together tomorrow for a review of Snowpiercer.